It's a snow cone.
We're on the air, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I will now convene our budget work session. Tonight's meeting is being conducted both in person and online. Members of the public are always welcome to all of our meetings, and they can also watch us on burnsvillemn.gov/meetings or on Comcast Channel 16 or 859. So the public can also participate in our meetings through Zoom by joining us at zoom.us/join. More information is available on our meetings webpage and in the council agenda packet. And this is our budget work session, and so we go directly to the items on our agenda. And so the first items is the proposed 2026 fee discussion, and presenting is our Deputy City Manager, CFO, Jenny Rohde, and Jenny is going to be presenting alongside Ms. Jean Vogt from Ellers. So Jenny, you can give your presentation and introduce our guest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. Tonight, we're continuing our budget discussions with the proposed 2026 fees, as well as we'll look at the financial information for our enterprise funds. And then we have our municipal advisor with us tonight, Jean Vogt, and she's going to review their work on the utility rate study, as well as present financial information for the three utility funds. Starting off, I'll just review the budget calendar. Tonight, we're discussing the proposed fees and utility rate study. Following this presentation, we will have 4 department budget presentations from Finance, Community Development, Parks, Recreation and Facilities, and Police. So that will be next. Next Tuesday on September 16th, council is scheduled to adopt the proposed city and EDA property tax levy. On November 25th, we do have a placeholder for an additional budget meeting if needed. And on December 2nd, the adoption of the city and EDA property tax levy, as well as the budget and adoption of the CIP and budget hearing is scheduled. For 2026, the fee schedule was attached to your backgrounds. That did include a comparison from 25, so it includes both 25 and 26 rates, and also descriptions on the changes made and the methods used to set the rates. Certainly, the leadership team reviews the fees in their areas. Each department looks at their fees annually and does an analysis and decides, what increases are necessary for the budget next year. Some fees agreements, so those are set. Certainly, our annual utility rate study informs our utility rates in the stormwater and water and sewer funds. The direction this year, as has been for the last 3 years, is other discretionary fees have been increased by 3%. If they've been increased at a different amount based on analysis by the department, there'll be some small notations in the fee schedule about the method that was used. So certainly, as we go forward, the next information we're going to look at are the enterprise funds financial activity. The fees are the primary source of revenue in those enterprise funds, as well, including the utility funds, as well as a major source of revenue in the general fund, as we talked about last month when we looked at the general fund. The first enterprise fund we'll review is the Ames Center. Just a couple of assumptions on these next couple of pages, and then we'll look at the chart. Revenue projections are lower when compared to last year's projections, so we have seen kind of a leveling off of revenues. Revenues for 2026 are projected to increase about 1% over 2025. So we do have some increases, but those increases have moderated somewhat. Included in the 5-year plan is also a reduction in naming rights of $100,000 starting in 2029. The agreement is ending in 2028. So the financial information reflects that reduction. For 2026, budget budget is projecting an operating loss of about $241,000. So operating revenues are lower than operating expenses. In terms of expenditure projections, they're generally consistent with what we saw last year for the same 5-year window. Expenditures are projected to increase by about 7% in 2026. So just year over year, 25 to 26 increase is about 7%. The AIM Center does include about a little over $975,000 of capital outlay in the fund. More operating types of assets or equipment and those kinds of things. It does exclude about $3 million of capital outlay that's supported by the Facilities Fund, as has been the practice based on the Facilities Fund policy. So it doesn't include major facility renovations or improvements. So as we look at the AIM Center Fund, this trend line, you can see the dark or the black line is really the cash or cash reserves in the fund. And the target cash balance is the light blue line. And as was presented last year, and also we discussed in the financial management plan in March, there is a trend, a steady trend downward. So as we go forward and in the next year or so, we'll need to start talking about what additional revenues or funding we can include in this fund. Is there some change? Do we need to look at maybe a little more support from the Facilities Fund in the capital, as well as maybe additional support from other funds or another revenue source? The ICE Center Fund, 2026 revenues are projected to be higher than 2025. We do have an unusually, higher than normal. There are a couple of major improvement projects going on at other facilities, so we're benefiting from additional ICE time rentals from groups that are, maybe displaced from those facilities. The projections go back to more of a normalized amount in 2027, so it's just that large increase is just a short-term increase. Cash reserves are within policy through 2030, and it excludes about $1.8 million of capital outlay that's supported by the Facilities Fund. Again, the ICE Center does fund its own capital in terms of capital equipment and those smaller kinds of capital purchases. Those are about $686,000 in the 5-year window, but about $1.8 million of larger facility improvements are included in the Facilities Fund. So you can see here, the blue line is the cash balance requirement or the cash reserves target, and the black line there is the cash balance. You can see it is trending upwards. There is a larger capital purchase in 2029 that's planned right now. I think it's some rubber flooring, so that does draw down the cash balance, but you can see in the following year it is trending upwards. So we'll keep an eye on that and make sure, we're going in the right direction, but for now, this fund is in a stable position. The golf course, 2026 revenues are projected to be higher than 2025. We're seeing increased rounds and increased revenues for rounds and rentals and those kinds of things. Cash reserves in this fund are within policy through 2030. This does exclude $246,000 of capital outlay supported by the Facilities Fund in the 5-year window. I believe there is a little over, I think there's about $150,000 in capital planned in the fund for equipment purchases. Here is the 5-year financial information for the golf course. You can see in 2025, we are below our target fund balance. We did have some larger capital purchases, and you can see the gray line is expenditures. You can see that goes up higher than average in the later years. So we did spend down a little bit of cash on larger capital purchases, but as we go forward, the trend line is upwards, and so this fund is right now in a stable position over the 5-year window. Street lighting. Street lighting is funded by utility charges that are billed with the water, sewer, and stormwater utility through that billing cycle. It includes charges, two different charges for continuous street lighting. So those fees that benefit properties that have street lights. So maybe certain neighborhoods do have street lights and they do pay for those specific lights. And then there's major roadway lighting that is billed to all residents for lighting on major roadways like county roads and things like that. So the continuous street lighting is only billed to properties that have street lights. The key assumptions here, we're assuming no rate increases through 2030. The fund is in a stable cash position, so we're not planning for any rate increases at this time. It also includes about almost $1 million in capital improvements through 2030. 2026 projects total $510,000. Two of those major projects in 2026 are Heart of the City lighting and electrical upgrades for $325,000, and then 35W exit ramp to County Road 42 in Buck Hill, lighting of $100,000. And here are the financial results for the street lighting fund. You can see 2026 is the largest year of capital at $510,000, so we are drawing down a little bit on fund balance, but that fund balance remains high and well above our cash reserve requirements. And with that, I will turn it over to Jean, who can review the results of the rate study.
Welcome, Jean.
Thank you. I don't know if there's something I need to do to, is that better? There we go. Yes, I'm Jean Vogt. I'm with Ellers, and it's a pleasure to see you all tonight. It's been a while since I've been in front of you, so I'm very excited to be here tonight. And we're going to talk about the exciting world of utility rates. We did update the utility rate study. This is an annual update that we do provide to the city. When we talk about, what are some of the things that we're looking at tonight, we're going to look at some of the goals and assumptions for the study. What were our general findings? What are the capital project needs for the water, sewer, and stormwater funds? What are we recommending for any rate changes? And then, of course, we're looking at what is the impact on your average rate payer, and then what can we look at for next steps. So the goals of the study, of course, we want to make sure that the funds continue to remain self-sufficient. We want to make sure that there's appropriate funding cash balances, and that to balance the use of cash versus debt for paying for some of those capital projects. We do want to make sure we're recommending utility rates and fees that do support the funds. We do look at a targeted working capital balance. This is similar to what you were, Jenny was talking about, is what is an appropriate fund balance and cash balance for these funds to have. We want to make sure that there's that ability to pay for any unforeseen expenses or repairs that come up. So when we talk about what are we looking at for those targeted minimum reserves, we talk about a minimum working capital being 6 months of operating expenses plus some depreciation, along with 1 year's worth of debt service. So this ensures that in case of an emergency, that the funds are able to continue to pay operating expenses for the next 6 months. And then if we include the debt service, then that keeps the rating agencies happy and the bondholders happy for any debt that's out there. When we look at the capital projects that are in the CIP, we're looking at.
Sorry.
That's okay. We look at more than just capital, we look at operating as well. So some of the assumptions that we include are, of course, the rate increases are going to vary by fund, but when we're looking at other types of assumptions that we make, other revenue growth, for example, the JPA income with the City of Savage, investment earnings, these can all vary, so there's a range that goes with that. When we look at operating expenses, those you can see are a little bit higher than our revenue growth, so we do take a slightly conservative approach, assuming that expenses are going to increase a little bit higher than your revenues. That's intentional. And then when it comes to the capital projects, we do not assume an inflation factor of that. The city has already taken that into account, so we don't want to include that twice. Some new things that came to light this year. The safe drinking water fee from the Minnesota Department of Health is increasing for the first time in many, many years. I can't remember the last time that that's increased. But that's a pass-through, so that is an expense that the city pays, and that is then directly then included on the utility bills. But it is increasing. It was $9.72 per connection. It's going up to $15.22 for 2026. Another increase that we're seeing is from the Metropolitan Council Environmental Services, or MCES. We are assuming a 5% annual increase in that fee. That's consistent with what we're seeing with other communities. In discussions with MCES, they are planning on at least a 5% increase in their budgets for the foreseeable future, which they will then, of course, pass along to all of the communities on the system. The last thing that we've got here is the state bonding requests for the water fund that were planned previously from 2026 through 2030 have been moved out to 2031 through 2036. So those projects have been shifted out and delayed. So we're not really going to be talking about them this much, about that very much in this next 5-year window. So when we talk about general findings, what did we see when we did the update this year? One thing that we noticed is that water usage has gone down in 2024. We're expecting that to happen in 2025 as well. We're looking at a couple of pretty wet years in the last couple of years. 2023, it was much drier water usage, then goes up, mainly in the summer for lawn watering, car washing, that type of thing. So with that, we're assuming that 2025 is going to be a wet year similar to what we saw for 24. The assumptions we're making is that 2026, it kind of rebounds a little bit to more of that typical year of rainfall. The stormwater utility fund is performing well. This is great news. So overall, what we're finding is that we're only looking at some moderate increases to ratepayers for 2026. Fairly consistent with what we were seeing last year. We've got some minor adjustments to that, but not a lot of change. The debt is limited to the larger capital projects, so capital related to equipment or some of those smaller expenses, the utilities are paying cash for those. We're only looking at bonding for those larger projects. So one of the things that we looked at last year that we never really got to fully address with the council was an analysis with looking at the fee structure or the rate structure for water and sewer. So I wanted to make sure that we talked about that now. So what we did last year was we did another deep dive. Back in 2020, we had gone through and done a rate restructure. So last year we went through to make sure that it was doing what it was, that those changes were doing what you had intended them to do, and they were bringing in the revenues that they needed to bring in. So we did an analysis to make sure that the fixed costs of the system were being paid for by the fixed charges, and likewise the variable usage was being paid for by the tiered consumption rates. We did this because we want to make sure that the fixed costs of the system are being paid for regardless of usage. And then for the water, we reviewed the current rate structure that we had that the city had implemented back in 2020 to promote conservation. And you can see the little chart over on the right side compares to who is using the system versus who is paying for the system. And so the rate structure you have in place is doing just that. So those customer types that are, for example, residential apartments, commercial, that they're paying for their fair share of the system that they're using. So let's take a look at the capital projects over the next 5 years. We have them broken down between water, sewer, and storm. In total, the three utilities will spend about just over $59 million on capital projects over the next 5 years. For water in 2024, we were looking at about $29.8 million in capital, and now we're up to about $30.7 million. So an increase of just under $1 million. Again, we're looking at, we've shifted this out one more year. So instead of looking at 25 through 29, we're looking at 26 through 30. That's about a 3% increase. This, again, does not include any of the state bonding projects. Included in that, though, for the water treatment projects include the water treatment plant facility projects totaling about $1.5 million, with $1 million of that for HVAC. And then also included is about $1.25 million for the Nicollet Reservoir Facility for electrical HVAC and other upgrades. In the sewer, we had looked at about $8.4 million last year. Now we're up to about $12.4 million, or an increase of about $4 million over last year. So again, as time marches on, we bring in some of those longer-term projects, start coming to the forefront. This includes things like water and sewer main replacements for 2027 of about $1.5 million. There's lift station project costs, which increased by about 1.3. And then the sanitary sewer rehab projects also increased about 1.5 million. In storm, in 2024, we had about 13.8 million in projects. And now we're at about 16 million, or an increase of about 2.1, almost 2.2 million, or about 15%. The capital projects for this fund have kind of fluctuated a little bit, and that's a little bit to be expected with capital projects. So last year, the projects were a little bit lower than we had anticipated or seen in the past. So now they're up a little bit more to where we were looking at closer to 2023 numbers. So what does that mean for bonding, looking at these projects? So last year, we assumed that the water utility would bond for about $21.5 million, and now we're at about $24.7, or an increase of 3.2. The sanitary sewer will borrow about $4.3 million more this year than compared to last year. Last year was about 6.6. In total, the three utilities will borrow about $9.65 million more compared to last year's model. We were at about 28.1, and this year we're at about 37.8. Stormwater only has one bond issue included for about $2.2 million in 2029. So what does that mean for all the rates? We're talking about all these expenses and things are having to do more, right? And I apologize, the print on this is pretty small. I hope you can see it. But what we're looking at here is for increases in 2026, we were last year recommending a 6.5% increase. This year we're looking at 7%. So it's about a 0.5% increase more than what we were talking last year. And we're looking at that increase happening from 2026 through 2030. Also, again, this year, took another high-level look at your tier breaks, and similar to the work we did last year, everything still looks good. So no changes there. So what does that mean long-term for the water fund? And again, this is just the water portion of the water and sewer fund. So cash balances continue to remain close to the target. We are a little bit below. That's okay. We are looking at supporting more capital projects. The fund does rebound just outside this 5-year window. So we're going to use the power of compounding, those 7% per year. We're going to use that to help build those reserves over time. So along with the capital, though, it is important to know that even the operating expenses are going up. There's just some things we can't avoid. So we did see an increase, for example, in personnel. We were projecting 3% per year. That's now gone up to 4%, as mainly health insurance costs become more expensive. So let's take a look at the sanitary sewer utility. This one is fairly consistent with what we were seeing last year. Last year we talked about 3 years of 9.5% rate increases, and so we're into year 2 of that. We're not recommending any change to that, so we're looking at 9.5 for 26 and a 9.5% increase for 2027. Once we're done with that 3-year look, then we drop down to 4%, looking at more of those inflationary increases going forward. A lot of this, I think we were at 2.5 or 3% after the 9.5%, but because of what we're projecting to see from MCES, with those costs increasing, we are recommending a slightly higher increase once we're beyond 2028 and beyond. So what does that look like for our cash reserves? Cash balances still look good. This fund is also a little bit below the target. That's okay. We do meet the target by 2030, which is great. We are looking at supporting about $12.5 million in capital projects between 2026 and 2030, with about 10.9 of that being bonded for. And let's talk about the Stormwater Fund. This is probably the best story we have to tell, right? Because the Stormwater Fund has been fairly consistent over time going. And so we're really only looking at a 2.5% increase for 2026. This is consistent with what we had recommended last year. For 2027 and beyond, though, we are looking at 4.25%. So we are bumping that up a little bit, still within that inflationary cost window. A lot of that having to do with increasing operating and capital costs. So what does that mean for the Stormwater Fund? So here we see that the Stormwater Fund is well above its targeted working capital, but we do always recommend maintaining some of those minor rate increases or smaller rate increases over time, just so that we don't have the fund falling quickly down to the working capital balance or even below. The fund is looking at about $16.1 million $1 million in capital projects between 2026 and 2030, but we're only looking at bonding for $2.2 million of that in that window. So let's put it all together, and what does this really mean when we're looking at a utility bill? So for a residential property that uses 4,000 gallons of water a month, water and sewer a month, we're looking at an increase of $4.29 per month, or about 7.6%. For a commercial property that uses 10,000 gallons a month, that increases about $21.16 per month. Most of those charges are going to happen as a result of the increases in the sewer, mainly the sewer, and then the water fund, with minimal impact on stormwater. So in conclusion, as we look at the 3 different utilities, utility increases are needed. We do need to maintain or increase those cash balances when we're looking at water and sewer. We need to support the community needs and the various capital projects that are happening, and also continue to pay for existing and recommended debt going forward. So looking at next steps, of course, review the activity and the status of the utility funds every year. We recommend that happening just because things do change, like MCES, right? And of course, I've been kind of harping on this one for several years, but if we could ever separate the water and the sewer fund into 2 funds, I would be absolutely thrilled.
Me too.
I don't think I'd be the only one.
I don't think you'll ever get there.
I am the eternal optimist. And then, of course, I had to change the cartoon because I couldn't leave you with what Dan had done last year. So this is my own cartoon.
Dan still makes it into the presentation.
That's right.
Just a little bit.
Okay. Any questions for Jean? Yeah,
Thank you, Jean.
Vince?
Did the Met Council say what their plan with the 5% annual increase is, or is it just
They-
to keep up with the Joneses?
Yeah, so I don't have a lot of specifics regarding MCES. We've had some distant conversations with them regarding just overall increases in their budget in that 5 to up to 7.5% increase year over year.
Just because they can?
Uh,
Infrastructure, or they're just not saying?
Right, yeah, we don't have a lot of details as to what's causing the increase.
When was the last time that they had an increase?
They increase every year to some degree. And then the way it's spread to the member communities is based on the flow that's generated by each of those communities. But they do see, there are increases every year, just not to this extent.
It is quick follow-up, so labor is their biggest driver at 2.8%, the biggest one. And then, so there's some notes here, they have contract services is another 1.3% increase. So,
So just cost of doing business is kind of.
yeah.
Thanks.
Any
Thank you,
other
Mark.
questions?
No.
Okay.
Informative.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you, as always, a pleasure.
Thank you for making the trip.
Absolutely.
Okay, any questions for Jenny and the fee schedule? Okay, there's no questions for you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we're now going to go to department budgets, and I see that it's Alyssa. You're up first.
Yes, I'm up first.
Okay.
So I'll be talking about our finance department tonight. Our team consists of 10 employees. Our department overview, we provide stewardship of the city's financial resources to serve the community today and in the future. Our core services include accounting and financial reporting. This includes paying the bills and performing our audits. This year, we paid over last year, in 2024, we paid over 17,000 invoices. So that's a lot of invoices that got processed through our department. Much of what we do is required by law, so some of the cost increases that you see are just mandatory. They're not optional. We can't not do them. We also had 5 financial audits last year. So another thing that we do is multiple year financial planning. This is a part when we bring Ellers in to help with our FMP and our budgeting. We have asset and debt management. This includes issuing bonds, making bond payments, and working with our bond rating agencies. It also covers insurance, covering the, protecting the city's assets. We also, one of our core services is revenue and billing, including EMS billing and utility billing. Last month, we issued over 16,700 utility bills. So every month, more than 16,000 utility bills. It's just a big lift for generally 2-person utility billing department. So we also provide support to departments for their questions. Thanks. Next, I'll talk about some of our achievements and our accomplishments. We maintained our AAA bond rating, which is a reflection of our city's strong financial management and the multiple year financial planning. We have selected and are in the process of implementing a new utility billing payment processor, and this is going to provide a better user experience for our utility payers. Paymentus will replace Bill Trust, and it integrates with WaterSmart. We're targeting a go live in the first quarter of 2026. So that's currently underway. More things that we've accomplished. We had budget process improvements, including increased automation. We moved to a more electronic process this budget cycle, and we asked better questions and received better information to make our decision making. Another thing we accomplished, we worked with Wells Fargo, our banking partner, on an onboarding campaign to enroll our vendors in electronic payments. This is much more secure than paying by check. We transferred 83 vendors from check payments to ACH or card payments. So that was a successful campaign. And also this year, we again did our annual insurance renewal. We obtained builder's risk coverage for our new police city hall project. And finance worked with police, fire, and public works to research additional coverages that were available. Ultimately, we decided that our existing policies and partnerships provided sufficient coverage, so we did not pursue those additional policies. But they included deadly weapons protection, pollution control, cyber policies. Our annual authorized purchaser training will be held again in September for approximately 200 authorized purchasers. So, next, I'll highlight some of our challenges and opportunities. We're continuing to receive some requests from customers for additional pay method options. So we are pursuing and exploring some different ways that people can pay their bills. Most of the fees and charges can be paid online, but there are still a few left that aren't able to be paid online that we're trying to figure out how we can make that happen. Also, our switch to Paymentus will bring back the IVR method where people can pay their utility bills over the phone. So I mentioned we're going out for RFP for audit services. I didn't mention that. This is my first mention of that. We recently received a request, or we released a request for proposal for audit services. Our practice is to go out for proposal every 5 years.
Yeah.
So we're doing that now. Proposals are due in September with interviews in October and returning to council for approval in November. So another challenge is we're planning for our ERP system replacement, which you've heard about. It's been in our capital planning and our CIP for a while. As part of that, we'll be also looking for exploring budget solutions to enhance our budget process and development. We continue to look at how to improve the development, decision-making, and presentation of the budget. One of our other challenges is combating fraud. We have a lot of vendor and employee impersonation fraud attempts. They usually come through email. You may also know this as phishing or spoofing. We have modified our processes to mitigate this risk by verifying vendor and personnel requests for changes. This slide summarizes our department expenses. For the general fund finance expenses, there's 3 major expenses in addition to personnel expenses. We have audit and accounting fees, professional services, and charges for hosted services and software. Our water and sewer fund finance expenses include printing and forms, insurance, and professional services. And then this line for insurance is the general fund cost for the property and casualty insurance. And we're right-sizing our insurance budget based on our actual experience. We had anticipated 2025 rates to continue to increase, but we saw a decrease in the actual expense, and so we adjusted the 2026 budget to reflect that change. Major changes in expenses. The following are some of the changes that we expect. We are anticipating an increase in audit fees based on our recent experience and as we compare costs with market and similarly sized cities. Our last proposal was 5 years ago in 2020, and costs have really increased across the board since 2020. So, we are exploring budget system software options as part of our ERP exploration. And we expect that there may be some expenses to changing systems as we explore new options. Generally, there's an increase in cost of software applications, again, across the board, across the city, where it's not 2 or 3%, it's $2,000 or $3,000 each. So that's a big cost. We also moved some expenses from the IT department to the finance department that are finance specific, just like we've talked about in other departments as well. So, and like I mentioned on the last slide, we have budgeted for a decrease in insurance expenses. Changes in expenses were offset where possible We performed a detailed analysis of our trends and our accounts to adjust accordingly, and we think we landed in a pretty good spot. So that completes my presentation.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Dan.
Question for City Manager Lindberg. Because you brought it up, I just thought it was worth noting because of the St. Paul hack.
Cybersecurity.
What are we as a city doing? This is to reassure our community to invest in the firewall, the security technology necessary to not become one of the statistics. And the reason I ask this question is when you look it up on Google and just ask what is the evidence for municipalities in hacks, and the response is local government systems throughout the country are a growing target for fraud, with cyber criminals using ransomware, phishing, and other tactics. Municipalities, this is the statement that I want to make sure we separate ourselves from. Municipalities are particularly vulnerable due to budget constraints, outdated technology, and a wealth of citizen data we are in charge of protecting. So we had this presentation when our IT director did his, but I just want to reiterate for the benefit of the viewing audience that may not have caught that one, what are we investing in our capital investment in the
Cybersecurity.
department in cybersecurity protection? I believe that we talked about a few things, but I would like to just touch on that again to reassure our residents that what happened in Columbus, Ohio, or Fulton County, Georgia, or even in St. Paul last year and again this year won't happen to us.
Yeah.
Well, Mayor and Council, there are many initiatives that we've undertaken. I think the reality is that we all have to recognize that those vulnerabilities exist. So that's the starting point. In terms of being able to say it won't happen to us because of any of the initiatives that we have taken, I can't do that, which is part of the reason that we've made the investment that we have. You heard from the IT department both in their budget presentation and most recently in the presentation of our IT capital study that unlike most municipalities, we have a very good handle not only on what we have in terms of capital equipment, and from a systems perspective, what our vulnerabilities might be. We've also just recently completed an IT operational study that included a very significant cybersecurity study. Our team is always working on and has most recently implemented a new incident response plan because the fact of the matter is we are vulnerable. Just like any other organization would be. That plan guides how we handle every incident that might happen in our systems. Primarily, I think the first and foremost right now is a reminder across our organization that those vulnerabilities exist, because frankly, we can be as prepared on the systems side of things, both from a operational investment and from a capital investment perspective. And we have many users who access our systems that need to behave appropriately and be trained. And frankly, different processes need to be put in place to make sure that user behavior is managed. So all of those things together are the collective plan that we have in place. I would say that I would put our plans, our training, and staff response preparation up against any municipality of any size when it comes to being best in class. I'm very confident that our staff continues to not only review, understand where we're at, and chart a path forward in a very changing dynamic and environment.
Thank you. I mean, what I hear you saying is we are, in fact, it is a priority. Security is a priority. And the investment is being made not only in cybersecurity defense mechanism, right, firewalls that are duplicated or, multiple times, but also just internally, which is another facet of, right, just connecting with someone through an email, and then a malware gets in, and now the perpetrator has access. So all of those things is, the best you can do, as you eloquently put it. There is no perfect defense that is indefensible, or that is impenetrable. Even large companies that spend millions of dollars get penetrated by, in one way, shape, or form. But we're not a city, municipality that is using outdated systems or antiquated or a lack of budget. We're investing in doing what it takes to put up basically the strongest wall we can to protect our consumer data.
I do have to commend staff and with the August 22nd incident, that we were able to mitigate that and nothing happened with regard to all of the online recreation registration. And so with all of that, it didn't breach our system because of what you have in place.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's worth restating
Yeah.
in today's world of, we all get notifications, hey, we were hacked last year, your data was exposed, we're sorry, here's some free subscription to data protection. It's happened so many times,
Yeah.
we've almost become numb to the impact and accepted it as a normal thing. We can't ever have that
No.
relaxed sort of
And-
laissez-faire, well, it's gonna happen anyway. If we're gonna stay out of, just as with the recent attempts, and that's not the only time we've ever had someone knocking at our door trying to break in.
Yeah.
We repelled it, and we'll continue to repel it, but it is an ongoing investment. It is gonna
Yeah.
cost money,
Yeah.
doesn't come free, but it's worth it to protect the data.
And I commend our staff because all of the fraudulent transactions that were attempted were successfully blocked by not only our banking partner, but also with our what we have in place, is what I have read in the Council Weekly. So, yeah, Jenny.
Yeah, and I don't believe we have any of that banking information saved on site, so that's another benefit, right? Where we're not
Yeah.
keeping the information we don't need.
Yeah.
It's
So
good. There was a city who did, apparently. Columbus, Ohio, 500,000 residents with social security and bank account was hacked into.
Yeah.
Not something that we as a city want to have anything to do with on our databases.
Well, they tried to hack into the recreational registration system, but everything that we have in place blocked that attack. And so we were successful in neutralizing all of that with the tools that we have in place. So thank you. What our community doesn't understand or know about is all the work that our staff does day in and day out to do the best and to provide the service that they expect of us. So, anything else?
Nope.
No. And thank you, Alyssa and Adam, for giving your report and keeping your focus. Thank you. And it's Jeff's turn.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Thanks for the opportunity to present a little bit about the Community Development Department this evening. As we have been doing, here's the organizational chart for community development. I just want to highlight really two things, two changes we've implemented in the last year, which are two new organizational analysis positions that we've now fully implemented. Of course, the hiring of Travis as our Deputy Community Development Director, and then also the hiring of the Assistant Building Official. Both of those were included in the organizational analysis, or implemented in the organizational analysis. As you know, Travis leads our planning, neighborhood services, and our economic development teams. And then the assistant building official was able to accomplish essentially a management level to really lead our field inspections around building inspections and building safety permitting, which has been very incredibly successful implementation of some staffing changes in community development that have improved how we support our team and how we support the services that we deliver in Burnsville. So community development works, right? Our department, we work with residents and businesses to help the community grow and prosper. We haven't made any changes to this. That really primarily happens through our 4 service teams, building safety, neighborhood services, planning, and economic development. Highlight just some of the achievements that we were able to accomplish in the last year, some of which the council has seen very recently, and kind of getting to the finish line on some of these. First, one of the big ones is the local affordable housing aid. I would say we've implemented kind of the first phase of programs that the council has supported with the funding that we're getting from the state for our housing programs. Those launched live last week, so we're happy about that, as we've launched the home improvement loans and the senior deferred loans to help support owner-occupied investments in housing. And then the other 2 are our housing and commercial property inventory, which helped inform our economic development strategic framework, which was adopted by the council last month, and we've already rolled into the implementation of that plan, which will inform our economic development work in the next 3 to 5 years. I'd also say we're also strongly using that housing commercial property inventory to help inform the housing programs we've talked about as part of LAHA, but also will continue to inform the programs as we bring back kind of the second phase of potential programs the council has talked about and given us early direction to continue to explore for future implementation in 2026. Did also want to highlight there's a lot of work in community development that is just kind of day-to-day service to the community, and so trying to reflect ways of how that impacts and benefits our community. So in the last year, we've completed over 11,000 building inspections to support $244 million of construction.
That's a huge jump from what,
Is that the biggest
from
year
even
we've had?
3 years ago in terms of,
It is. It is a substantial, we
Wow.
saw some bigger projects, right, that help drive that, but it's a significant amount of
and
construction
the
investment.
amount of projects that you have. I'm glad that you have the resources, because that's a big number
Yeah.
in inspections.
Yeah, especially as we look at, I know last year's number was, Jenny gave the update, the last budget presentation, the last year's market value was 9.5 billion. That's a substantial percentage of our existing market value that we're seeing in investment in construction. And that's led by our building safety team, but also our neighborhood services team, just on the rental housing side of things. We license over 11,000 rental units in Burnsville, and have also kind of added on to that the new 223 units of housing that have been constructed in the last year, and projects that you see in particularly
really
heart of
good.
the city.
244 million in construction. In 2025 or 2020,
That was in 2024.
2024, 2025, yeah.
Yep. And we'll continue to track these numbers in 2025. But the current rental units, that's the current count of rental units. And
You
the number
know,
of housing
I don't
units.
think people realize that we have 11,000 rental units and 223 new housing units. That's a lot when we're built out.
High density is the answer.
We're never going to be built out
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, we go up.
And that's work.
We're doing our part in making sure we have housing units.
It's a great selection, too. Better today than it's been in 40 years.
And that's
Okay.
work that every day our community development team is helping support, right, our businesses and developers and residents to make those investments and continue to build up the economic development in Burnsville.
Well, and that's why our market value continues to go up. 10 billion?
Close.
He's looking at Jen,
Pending the final numbers, right? I
Yeah,
remember
I think our estimated
Yeah.
market value for 26, the preliminary was about 10 billion.
Yeah.
So when Jenny and I go to,
Yeah.
when Jenny and I go to MLC meetings and they start talking about that, we lean into each other, we say, how much are we at now? And that's why you have to drive that,
We're doing it every day.
you and the team.
And the team, yes.
Just a quick side question. What's our trend? It was 223 new units in 2024?
It's
What are
in the
we-
last year, so we did try
Oh,
to.
so like
Correct.
last month, going back 12 months, trailing 12 months. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
That was the numbers that, yeah.
Cool. That's good.
Still some challenges and opportunities in community development. You just to highlight the kind of the three biggest ones. One is I know I've said it to you before. It's surprising to me that we're already at the cusp of our next update of our comprehensive plan, but that's coming forward in the next several years. Our next 3 years of work ahead, starting in 2026. We continue to I know we've talked to the council about the zoning ordinance update and the opportunities and challenges we have there. And then, as we've also talked in the conversations around our housing programs, right? We know we have had success in the 2 programs that we've had, but we've substantially increased the funding. And so I think we need to continue to monitor those programs regularly every year to make sure that they're working. And then we can make adjustments and bring back to the council any sort of policy changes to those programs to help influence future investments in our housing infrastructure. So we'll continue to implement the next phase of projects and talk to you about that, but also ensure we're monitoring all of our programs to meet the needs of Burnsville. Won't go through this in detail. I think I have a summary slide after this, but we did make some changes to our revenue on the community development side for 2026. Particularly the 2 changes we made were we looked at a 5-year trend of our building safety and our permit revenues. And it's not just a 1-year. We had that $244 million, but we are seeing a regular trend of increasing revenues in our permits, not because we've increased fees associated with that,
But the volume.
and the fees are tied to valuation, right? The way the state model works
Yeah.
is that permit fees are tied to valuation, so as valuations have gone up, we are seeing kind of a regular increase. We wanted to match the 5-year trend of revenues and building inspections, and so we made some changes, as you can see, to about just over $200,000 in permit revenue increases in the budget for 2026.
So it's
Nice.
the fees are a byproduct of the inflation that's been going on in the construction field for the last 5 years.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah.
And the amount of construction, but yeah, mostly,
And the
kind
amount,
of a combination of the 2.
Yeah.
And then the second one, you'll see the changes in our rental licensing. That's really, you'll see a decrease there of, and that's really just a result of us looking at the actual number of licensed units. We were a little high in estimating how many rental licenses we had, so we went back, looked at the actual number of rental licenses and used that to inform next year's number. It did require a little of adjustment downward. Not that we're seeing a decrease in the number of units, but just the number of licensed units that we were accounting for in the budget needed to be reduced slightly. So you can see really just a correction to the accuracy of the data that we have. So all that about, you can see the increase in revenue that we're projecting for 2026. And I think that slide pretty much summarizes those 2 changes in revenue, the major changes in revenue that we're seeing in community development. On expenses, the quick summary of this is, planning, building safety, and neighborhood services. We have reduced, modest reductions, but we've made some reductions in the current expenditures for all 3 of those teams. There's a slight adjustment in economic development, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then the biggest new request, which I know we talked about in the operating budget presentation, is $250,000 next year to help support mostly the community visioning process the council has given us direction on, and then also begin the work on the consultants' work out of that to inform our 2050 comprehensive plan. The other changes that we've made, or major changes in expenses, we did have in the organization analysis 2 positions in community development for 2026. We met as a leadership team in the department and ultimately decided not to request those in the budget. There was a housing position and an economic development position. And as we've completed the economic development strategic framework and we've partnered with Center for Energy and Environment, and as we look at housing implementation programs that use outside nonprofits to support the administration of those, we're not requesting those in the 2026 budget. We have requested some money, I think it's $31,000, and that's the economic development budget increase, was to support the due diligence work for our city-owned land sales.
Are you just delaying the 2 positions?
No, we've just removed them from the organizational analysis.
Okay.
We'll continue to, of course, as part of the regular organizational update every year, continue to monitor that, but no, we've removed them from the OA.
So, but you feel confident about the staff level that you have?
We are confident in that decision, yep.
Okay.
So yeah, the second is to support, as we talked about the land sale policy earlier this evening, and also the recent land sales or the purchase agreements for the former fire station property. On the front end of selling any sort of city-owned land, there are expenses we incur for appraisals and environmental work and any survey work that needs to happen, title investigation. That's obviously, supported by proceeds from the land sales, but there are some upfront costs that we need to complete to be able to prepare those properties for potential disposition. We did make some reductions in planning consultants as we've relied on much less, fewer planning consultant dollars because we're fully staffed in our planning team now. I talked about the community visioning and comp plan update. And then we did make some reductions in our code cash program. Again, we have gotten the word out as best we can about that program. We're just not seeing as much need for the program support as we had budgeted. So we just made adjustments based on the actual number of applications we've seen in the last 3 years. And I think these pretty much walk that through, that the 3 requests are the $250,000 for community visioning. I should cover this. So we did include the $400,000 for the LAHA funded housing programs for next year to continue those programs into 2026. Again, that program is fully supported by the funding for the program is supported by the local affordable housing aid from the state. As you recall, the administrative expenses are not eligible for that, so that needs to come out of the EDA fund, but the programmatic expenses come out of the local affordable housing aid. And then lastly, I talked about this, but the $31,000 to support the land sale project for now and going forward into the next few years. So with that, we were able to do an article in the Burnsville Bulletin this year, just to highlight all of our work from beginning to end of development impacts Burnsville. And so Travis was able to get our entire 22-person team for the first time together for a picture. So that was included in the article. And these are the people that do this work every day and are doing it that deserve some recognition.
You know, Greg and Jeff, this is the first time since the recession that you have a fully staffed department to do all of that, because it was pretty skinny for a long time.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'm proud of the team, right? We've done a lot in the 3 years I've been here and in the last year, and some really important work that we're continuing to improve on and continue to provide service to Burnsville, and I'm proud of the work that the team does every day.
Well, and it's a testament, because when developers are complimentary about the work that you all do and how easy it is to go through our process here in Burnsville, that they don't have to go through a lot of challenges to get through the approval process. So thank you for that. Okay. Okay, next on is Garrett with Parks, Recreation, and Facilities. Did anybody have any questions or comments for Jeff?
Very thorough.
Yeah, okay.
Congratulations. Yeah. And included in all that is you brought in sustainable safari and successfully opened up a zoo in the mall.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big get.
Why weren't they at the festival?
Couldn't do Saturday. Saturday's kind of a
Something
big,
about that Saturday and getting the animals out there.
yeah, I think you had trouble getting the zoo on Saturday. So we can do Friday, but can't do Saturday.
I think that's a busy day for them
Yeah.
Saturdays.
Very busy.
Okay, Garrett, floor is
Yeah.
yours.
I will say it because you're all thinking of it. Tonight would be amazing if we could hear from Garrett one more time, so.
Yeah. It's been
that.
your
Oh,
night,
good.
hasn't it, Garrett? I mean,
Here we go.
You really bookended the experience.
So the Parks Rec and Facilities team is made up of 20 people. We're a diverse group that works really well together across a group of recreation staff that assist with a lot of park projects that we do. We have our ice center operations, we have our golf course operations, and then we have our facilities team, which involves the daytime maintenance and a lot of the facility management of the things that you heard about earlier tonight. And then our evening team and weekend team that deals with cleaning and maintaining a lot of our facilities that we have. So an overview, the Parks Rec and Facilities Department includes recreation, facilities management, the ice center, Burnhamwood Golf Course, and our team exists to provide great spaces, places, and activities for the community. Some of our achievements over the past year, not only just the groundbreaking of Police City Hall, but the project. There's a lot of folks involved in our department and across many departments to help get us to the groundbreaking point and then managing that project over the next 3 years. We are replacing 8 playground projects, which involve a lot of engagement with the community and open houses. We delivered the parks plan and the park visioning portion of the parks plan. We delivered the Party on the Plaza study and are currently involved in a recreation service analysis and a wayfinding study for our park system. I think one of the highlights of our department that they just do a great job of is project engagement and engagement in general. A lot of these projects, if there's changes, we're out in the park systems, meeting with people, inviting them into City Hall for open houses, and then just doing engagement in general out in the community, in the parks for pop-up events and things like that. We had the opportunity to hire a great new staff person to replace one of our staff that departed. Kara Schwen is she's been a great addition so far. And then we have the facility inventory plan that was presented this evening, and a lot of our staff time went into making that a reality. Challenges and opportunities, the Police City Hall project. It's been a time to get it to this point, and we still have about 3 years left. In fact, tomorrow we are kicking off the phase 2 planning. So we're still in the early stages of phase 1, but there's lots of moving pieces to make this a reality, to make sure that staff have what they need, the spaces that they need to work, and that the community remains a priority from our service standpoint, and that they still feel welcome throughout this project. Current staffing levels for our facility services and facility maintenance management. If you look at the Police City Hall project, we're essentially going to double in size. We're going to have some new opportunities with our community rooms, and the team that is required to take care of that would struggle with the capacity of doubling the service that they're currently taking care of, and then also trying to take on all these new opportunities that the facility is going to present. Condition 1 and 2 projects, both out in the park system and with facilities. Those all take time to execute and to deliver and to engage the community when necessary. As I mentioned, we have ongoing study management, and it's not only the studies that we're currently doing and the ones that we will be doing in the future, but the parks plan and the facilities plan. It's the management of those and to deliver on those 1 and 2 projects and stay up to date and maintain all that information and whatnot. From a revenue standpoint, recreation has a 1% increase in revenue. The ice center is bringing in about 9% more in revenue, and the Burnhamwood Golf Course that's their 5-year average that they're projecting from a revenue standpoint. So the major changes on the revenue, we increase fees in recreation and at the golf course 3% annually. The ice center has an increase of about 5%. They have a variety of different fees, so it's not as simple as just saying it's a flat 3% or 5%. It just depends on what the fee is specifically, but most of them are right around that 5. And I think it's important to point out between Bloomington and Edina, those two cities have been and are renovating their ice centers. So as a result, as a neighbor nearby, we're getting a lot of business coming our direction as those communities deal with their ice centers being down for periods of time. So we'll see a nice spike this year and next year, but that may not be there in the years that follow. Again, here's a 3-year look at revenue. We stay pretty consistent. The golf course is always one of those ones where it's so much dependent on the weather. We opened later this year, and we've had a lot of rain, and even though that number's lower, we're probably actually gonna come in, again, there's still a lot left in the season, but it's all seasonal, or it's all weather related, and they are doing very well out there. So I do anticipate that number being higher than what was budgeted. And then the ice center, again, you can see a reflection in 2026 of anticipated sales of ice that we are hearing from our neighboring communities while their ice center is down. From an expense standpoint, you will see an increase in the facilities department and the recreation department, and kind of stagnant at our golf course, and also a slight increase at our ice center. Almost all of those expense increases can be tied to either inflation on items that we can't control, gas, heating, things like that, or simply just existing staff, where compensation plans are changing. And that's kind of what the next slide highlights, is that the majority of all the expenses that you saw across all of our different work teams are related to health insurance, cost of living, and performance increases in pay. So the things that we can control, I think the team is doing a great job of controlling what is controllable on our end. CIP project management. We use a collaborative approach with our park staff to plan and engage community on delivering all of our CIP projects. We've already met actually between Parks and Recreation to look at what our 2026 projects are and think about RFP timing and how and when we're gonna be engaging the neighborhoods and the community on the different projects. We work with all of our building managers. Again, Dan Hill is our daytime facility manager, and he works with Chris, but they don't have the capacity to manage all 58 buildings by themselves. So we rely a lot on the folks who are a team of people who are in those buildings on a daily basis to assist with some of the facility projects. And then our team is there as a resource on a lot of those to help them. So it's a good collaborative effort, but it's a lot for our team. And then the park and rec, or the park and facility studies, both ongoing, and then working with Jason in Parks on the park building study that we talked about in 2026. So, sorry. With that, I will
Any
stand
questions for Garrett? Thank you, Garrett, for all of your great work on all of the projects that you're managing. And next is our police chief, Tanya Schwartz.
Mayor,
Yeah.
members of the council,
Okay.
thank you. I know you wanted to
Gee, they just,
hear some more from Garrett, but you got me now, so I'm gonna say
You want me
best
to
for
come deliver
last.
the
This is
police
it. We're
one?
gonna
Yeah.
be brief. It's 8:30, right, yeah.
I can do the police one.
You wanna go for it? Okay, so a little bit about our team. You're familiar, we have a large department, over 100 employees. 87 of those are sworn. And excited to say that we're very close to, we'll be full staff here coming soon, so I'll talk a little bit more about that. But we have a new wellness coordinator, which I'm also gonna talk about, but again, our divisions are patrol, investigations, our professional standards, and then within all of that, behavioral health, community engagement, emergency management training. So a lot of moving parts in our department, a lot of full services that we give to the community that we can do with the amount of people that we have. So that's a little bit about our team. Department overview, I've talked about this before. Really what we're trying to do each day when we come to work is focus on our mission, focus on our core values. And so everything that we do is really dedicated to making sure that we're trying to provide the best possible service that we can for our community. And we do that just by remaining grounded in that mission and our values. So working together with the community and our values of honor, integrity, courage, knowledge, and excellence. So everything we do, we just try to wrap around that, keeps us grounded. Achievements, we had a lot of achievements this past year, and really one of the biggest ones that we're all really proud of is just continued forward progress as we've gone through since February 18th of 2024. So just as we continue to move on, we actually have the sentencing hearing tomorrow, but just honoring our fallen heroes has been it's been a challenging path. But we're doing well, so I think that's a good thing to highlight as we move along. Again, staffing near full allocation, 87. So if you recall, we used to be 75 allocated, 87 now with the organizational analysis and support from the council and the community. And I think we just actually in October, we'll be onboarding our 87th officer. And so we've made amazing progress over the last year for sure to get to this point. So really,
do you know the last time you were
I
at
don't know,
full
and I'm
allocation?
knocking on wood because sometimes it's
Yeah,
a hot
but-
second, you're full staff, and then
But I think it's-
someone's,
It's
and when I say full staff, I mean, we have the bodies, but then sometimes, you may have injuries or you have people, navigating life and having babies and different things, but as far as like FTEs and our sworn allocation, it's been quite a while since we've
Yeah,
been.
would you say it was like the recession? Does it go,
I mean, I guess I'm not sure, but it's been quite a while. We
It's
have
been
never
quite a
quite
while,
been able
yeah.
to get to that allocation. So it's really exciting, and it's been a full team effort. So just, again, from our frontline staff, from field training, from just recruiting and saying, hey, we have a great place to work, come work for us, and getting some laterals and new people. So we've just done a really.
there for a while, it was even hard to try and hire people because it was right after the Floyd
Yes.
incident. Is that
Yes.
when that sort of tanked where people were,
Yes,
oh my.
people were not sure about going into public safety, so we'll see a little bit more increase in that. And then I think, again, for our department, we have a great department, an excellent department, and that travels across
Yeah.
the state. And so we get good candidates, so we're excited about it.
Yeah. And it's great that people want to come and work for us.
Absolutely.
And they're coming from other agencies too, as I see.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I recall a day where we were fully staffed, and I was up at a training at Camp Ripley, and we were talking about that. And then a day or two later, one of our officers retired. And so I can tell you the date. It was 2016, June of 2016 would have been the last time we were fully staffed for sworn. So.
2016, okay.
Chief, I apologize for putting you on the spot. I just think it's something very much worth celebrating.
Yes.
The work, the investment in the team, and the reality of where we find ourselves. So,
Yes.
good work.
Yes.
Well,
Team
I
is a part of
I have
that,
to
for
thank
sure.
the analysis, the organizational analysis that really identified. And so it allowed us to say, okay, where do we put the funds to make sure that you're fully staffed, fire's fully staffed, and everybody else is fully staffed, like Jeff's department and everything, because we hadn't done that,
Right.
so.
And we'll continue to look at that for the future as well, so. That's exciting. We did some expansion in the behavioral health unit and community engagement. And also will be, as Chief BJ with fire reported on, getting an EMS person in there, so to kind of have that holistic approach there, so that's exciting. our wellness coordinator is one of the biggest things that I think everyone in our department is just grateful for. We're really excited about. I hope to be bringing Laura to you at a council meeting in the future so that you can meet her and kind of learn about all the things she's doing. I think we've done a really good job of focusing on wellness, but her ability to look at this from a holistic approach and look at all the systems and the things that we're trying to do, from city benefits to police department benefits, and putting that all into a package and really looking at what is it that our people need, because our needs have changed and evolved just given what everyone has gone through as well, and that will continue to happen. And so she's really got that special skills and education and ability, so looking forward to that. It's a really exciting time for our department, and she's
It's
doing a
really
great
nice
job.
because Dave Zerwas started that, and thank you for having the foresight instead of letting one of our officers go, using him in a way that started this, and now she's taking it to the next level.
Yes.
Yeah.
He really laid the foundation for that. And again, this is another teamwork thing, and just our officers being engaged in wellness and, again, taking care of each other. And so this is a really, again, holistic approach we want to take. And then also some achievements, just, again, thankful for the key equipment and needs and things like that we need so officers can go out and do the job that they need and feel confident in their equipment, that they're going to be safe, that they're going to be able to get home to their families. And that has been a big part of coming to you, council, and the community, and having those things so we can do that. So we're grateful for that. Challenges and opportunities, of course, always officer safety is always a challenge and a way to look at opportunities as we think about our calls. They're still very complex, they're still very dangerous. So we're thinking about what equipment, what tools do we have, what can we use to make sure that we can support them in the work that they have to do, but they can maintain some distance and maintain cover, and again, that comes with equipment. Also, a lot of mental health calls continue. So again, that BHU unit is huge for that. We'll continue to work with fire and get EMS into that piece so we can continue to give people the right services at the right time. Another challenge, opportunity, is just span of control at the command level. As you looked at our team, again, we have a lot of moving parts. We have the challenge of that is we're 24/7 operations, but we don't have administrative command level staff that is on a 24/7 rotation. So we know that there's some need and there's some disconnect where our line level supervisors don't have access all the time to their captains, right? So there's a gap in that engagement, and there's a gap in that need for them to have that supervision as well. And so we're looking at, because patrol is our biggest division, so we have one captain overseeing that. And so that's just something that we're kind of thinking about and monitoring, because it's a lot for that one person to oversee somewhat around like 50 people when you're looking at supervisors, supervising
lot.
at least 10 people. And then the people under that, you know, with all of our patrol is, 40 some people. So it's a big span of control. So just thinking about how do we help that patrol captain as well, and make sure that their wellness is being tended to, because that's the position that also goes out to every major incident that we have. It's a patrol call, and if they need a captain to be out in command while they're doing the work that they do, then that's one person that's always sort of getting that call, and we as a team try to help supplement that. But it's just something we're thinking about. How do we,
You
as a
need to add another
24/7
person?
operation, get that? And so what can we do? So thinking about that some more. It's just something we, as we continue to add staff to, we see there's just more of a need.
Add
So-
another captain to the
Yeah,
team?
So we're thinking about that,
Yeah.
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 So I've been talking a little bit with City Manager Lindbergh about that, and so thinking on that a little bit more.
Okay.
And then, again, just that engagement with 24/7, so. Other challenges and opportunities just has been some of the cost or the lead time in getting vehicles. There was, sometimes we couldn't get squads, so we're just, production gets delayed. Where we're looking for hybrid vehicles, and then you couldn't find those, so then we're just going to gas vehicles, which was fine, but you're just kind of trying to navigate availability of equipment and vehicles. And then also extended leaves impact staffing and operations, which is great. The wellness components, all of these things are really great for our people. And we have a very young department, so you have lots of babies being born, you have lots of leave, which is exciting. And you also have fathers who want to take time off, which is very different from like back when I had my kids. Everybody was like, okay, dads are going back to work and this is a thing, but these benefits are great so that people can bond with their children, and that's wonderful. It also just means like we can have a lot of people off the schedule, so then we're trying to navigate how to make sure those schedules are filled. And I'll just say that just having up to the 87 allocated, as we've added folks on, it is less, people feel it less than they would if we were, still sitting at 75 and then also having those folks off patrol, so, or wherever they might be in the organization. So just a challenge and an opportunity that we continue to work with, but we're very grateful that they have the ability to have that time. Revenue, this is a summary of revenue. I'll talk a little bit more about this on the next slide, but just, we don't have major changes in revenue. We don't police for profit, so it's not like we're trying to generate all kinds of revenue, but we do generate some through false alarms. If we are getting repeated calls to false alarms, citation revenue, those things they just fluctuate, but are kind of relatively the same, fluctuate some between years. And then same for like alcohol, tobacco compliance checks, pet licensing, fingerprints, those are some of the services that we offer. And again, those aren't like making us huge revenues, it's just part of the cost of what it takes for resources to do those things. Expenses, this is a summary of our expenses from 2024, 2025, and this year in 2026. And really a majority of all of those are gonna be our personnel costs, and especially as we've gone up to get to full allocation now that we actually have people in those spots. Those are expenses there. That's gonna meet our organizational analysis, community needs like we talk about. Cost of equipment is also just continues to go up in, I think, every division, and the equipment that we need is, very expensive. Some of the vehicles, I'll talk about that when we get to capital improvement, but major changes in expenses, just staffing. We did do some right sizing in our budget and the overtime, so you'll see that, just to be close to our actual expenses. It's always kind of a guess when we do that on overtime, because if you have one or two like major big incidents, it just kind of throws it off. So we look at the trends and, but tried to bring that more closer to the actuals of what we were spending. We also, you heard Director Tom Venables talk about in IT moving, kind of right-sizing and moving things into police that were in IT, which is the Axon contract. So those costs you'll see in our expenses. We have increase and usually do each year through Dakota 911, just for consolidated dispatch services. So there was some increase there. And then really we're just looking at, we have expenses as we continue to look at what technology can we use, how can we leverage technology for community and officer safety, so some technology needs that we're considering. And then lastly, the capital improvement plan. You'll see there's some change in there. Primarily, that's the mobile command post, so we'll be we hope to be making that purchase in 2025 for, by the end of the year for the mobile command post. We also made some other, sorry about that. We also made some other purchases that are budgeted for but not purchased yet. So the armored vehicle, which is being built, actually, we thought that might be done in 2025. That looks like more like a Q1 of 2026 for that to get done. We also purchased an armored van, which is for our emergency action group. We partially paid for that, but there'll be another payment for that yet this year. We hope to get that by the end of the year. So primarily, these costs have to do with vehicles and the equipment that they need to, again, respond safely and be able to get into these situations in a safe manner. So that's the difference in those years, but the mobile command post. And we know that, or we're hopeful, we're still in process, but to be able to maybe secure some federal funding for the mobile command post. So we'll see where that lands as well.
Hopefully that comes through.
Yeah. But that with that, I don't have any great pictures. I'm sad that I didn't bring any pictures. I can't get all these 103 people in a spot all together at once. It's hard.
You should have had all the pictures of the vehicles that are, well, maybe it's coming in 2026.
Yes,
Well,
I
maybe
should've.
it's coming.
Actually, I should. I keep telling everyone, I want pictures of all the babies that have been born, and I'll put those guys up there. Yeah. But other than that, I'll just stand for any questions.
Questions, comments?
I'm just happy you're getting up to full staff.
Yes.
In light
I
of what's
know.
gone on in this country and people not going into public safety, it's remarkable, actually.
Yeah, I'm really proud of our teams just across the board it's a heavy lift for everyone, so.
Well, and not only that, you don't have the stress of all the overtime that people have to take. And then they're coming in back to back on all of those hours, and then great stress at home, stress at coming.
Yeah, we're getting into that final push of being done, so our field trainers have really also been doing a lot of work to get everybody up to speed, so.
Bonuses to go.
I will say a quick fun story from the weekend. I ran into some kids from baseball that I know at the festival, and they were doing cartwheels, and I am not physically capable of doing a cartwheel, so I was doing pretend cartwheels, and then we saw Sergeant Murray, and I challenged him to do a cartwheel, and he actually executed one with all of his gear on. And
Now, that's impressive.
Did not
With
tell
with all
the
his gear,
kids
that's
went
impressive.
nuts about it and thought it was the coolest thing ever, and so.
We aim to please, said the police department.
The HR
Murray-
director has a look that.
Yeah, he's like, what is going on? And then he submitted an injury report.
It's like, okay,
It was a pretty cool moment, so.
yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Anything else? Greg and staff, thank you so much. I think this is all of the departments that we've, and now we move forward to the 16th of September for the max tax. And I'm just pleased with the work that all of you are doing. I mean, because when you get emails complimenting the work that you're doing, it says a great deal. And thank you for sharing great stories when you receive them, because that informs us about what's going on also. So that's great. And then, heck, I always like it when I don't have to get a lot of emails about all the property maintenance stuff. So thank you, Jeff and Travis. So that's good. And, yeah, Public Works, we'll wait and see when the snow flies. Everybody's been happy.
Wait.
Hold on, Mayor. Quick clarification, it's the department that touches every single resident and every visitor, every single day, year-round.
Yes,
We like to
you
be known for being
do.
reliable and dependable.
Forgive me. Yes, you do. And you do a lot of these things that you bring out to the kids.
We are making outrageous efforts to connect with the community, Mayor.
Yeah. I think this is your toy. I look at all the toys that BJ gets, and this 3D printing is your toy.
Educational outreach, Mayor.
Yeah. But thank you. And Alyssa, thank you for keeping a good eye on all about the money that belongs to the people. That's great. And, you know, everybody doesn't say much about you, Mike, however.
Mike's just trying to be quiet over there.
But you look out for all of us. So thank you. So with all of that, and then, thank you to all of you. You guys do an excellent job, and I'm truly grateful for the work that you do in service to the community. And so that's great. Is there anything else? If not, we'll let you good people go home. We stand adjourned by acclamation.